Talked about all the things about Southeast Asia, how to get into the market, the nuances and the regulations around cruising in the region, and why we need to bring together as an industry an alignment across our sector so that we can help each other's business out.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Ben Taylor podcast, the home of marine industry insights. Today we'll be hearing all about Southeast Asia, and quite specifically yachting in Southeast Asia. We have Wade Pearce on the podcast as a guest to talk all about it. So welcome to the podcast.
Ben Taylor, big fan, and
thank you very much.
Yeah, I've been loving
following for ages.
Big follower.
He's there.
Yeah,
look who's talking to. Yeah, cool. No, good. Thank
Seeing
you.
around the boat shows and stuff. Mate, it's really happy to be first time on here, and hopefully I'll come back again if I do a good job.
yeah. Thank you very much. So let's have some context. Who are you? What have you done? Where's all this kind of expertise and insight coming from?
Yeah, so I've been in Southeast Asia for 10 years and running the boat shows, setting up the boat shows. So, for instance, Thailand back in 10 years ago, and in Singapore running the shows, organising the shows, and then obviously in onto the conference. So, in that time as well, did a little consultancy for different brands, getting in. So, yeah.
And what's it like setting up a boat show? What's that journey like?
It's been setting up boat shows is obviously it's a process to events and things, but Asia is another big thing, especially Southeast Asia, because you don't have the manufacturing behind you. So you've got a lot of dealers and salespeople and things. So yeah, you have to be knowledgeable about a lot of different things, but not an expert on too many things. So,
yeah. So am I right in thinking for a lot of the kind of established boat shows, they actually lean on the boat builders themselves having a corporate presence, and a lot of the big brokerages who say, okay, we're going to be here, and actually their bill is kind of a bit of a stronghold commercially of the whole event, and then obviously their brand itself brings in attendance. Is that right? Is that true?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, we've gone through quite a lot of phases of brands coming in and dealerships, getting involved, and obviously the ones, especially over COVID, everyone knows there's a big boom and everything was going good. Yeah. I think things are back to what they were pre-COVID, and I mean, this is now when the well resourced brands are being shown, and the dealers who have that interaction with the customer base in Asia, they're now coming through, and you're starting to see less of people who sort of took the opportunity during COVID to take advantage of the industry. Yeah,
the ones who kind of came and went quite quickly. It's now back to a normal audience. Yeah, and for a lot of the American market, European market, there's quite a few players going, okay, could we be players in the Southeast Asia yachting market? Can you give some context? What is that market like? How can people play in that region?
Yeah, so I suppose one of the big things we always see is that everyone sort of looks at Asia as like the next big thing, and it's been the thing that everyone talks about, and everyone puts their toe in and goes, whoa, there's not as much going on as what the opportunity looks. And I think everything's a little bit fractured and not very. I'll use Icomia as an instance. Like, they're very well structured, and you can tell in Europe and America, there's associations together. In Southeast Asia particularly, it's very disjointed, and that makes it opportunity, but also progress takes time, and that's the biggest part that we see. Yeah.
And so if you're an organisation, say you're a boat builder, you're looking at, let's stick to the Southeast Asia market, because I think it's very easy to go, okay, the Asian market, it's quite a big space, very, very different, and those strategies will kind of differ.
Yep.
But for the Southeast Asian market, what's a good starting point so that organisations can say, okay, if we're looking for a presence there and have some of that market share, what's a good starting point?
Yeah, I think you nailed it just there. Asia is actually way bigger than, you sort of look on a map, especially if you're a business coming from America and Europe trying to look at it. You're like, wow, Asia's big. You've got a lot of manufacturing in the north, a little bit in the south, Southeast Asia, but I suppose when you do look at it, you've got Singapore as a business central hub. Then you've got these beautiful places in Indonesia and Thailand, but they're tourism destinations. So I suppose what we see the most of, especially with Singapore, is that companies feel confident to come into there because they're not going to find partners there. But the opportunities definitely lie in Indonesia and Thailand and Singapore, of course, as a hub, but definitely expanding out to there. And I think this is one thing we find with brands coming over, is that obviously they've got to have a 5-year plan and things like that, but getting a solid foundation first, and then progressing through. I use Kiago Sea Bob as an example. They've got a head office in Singapore, but a lot of their business is done outside of there, like in Thailand, and very rarely would they sell in. But they've used Singapore as their hub not hub. Hub's probably
but like a platform, a starting point. So that almost have a focus on a very specific region in Asia, and then kind of go from there. Is a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
And so, what does the customer look like? I'm going to leave it as I'm going to start the question there, so it's nice and open. Like, what kind of demand are organisations going to experience there? What do the customers look like?
Good question. Not to profile things too much, but obviously there's B2B market, B2C. On the B2B side, there is continuous development in shipyards, refit and repair shipyards, going into all of Southeast Asia, and also marinas. So you see a lot of this happening in master planning, and especially where you see it's sort of tapped out a little bit all over the world. Yes, there's more marinas being developed, but Southeast Asia specifically, there's multiple projects happening. And then
quite a lot of manufacturing as well.
Not as much though. As much. So you've got especially on the let's say the yachting range, you've got some manufacturing in Thailand, which is quite prominent, and they sell internationally. And then you've got mostly the Phoenici's, for instance, is the charter boat in Indonesia, but they're built there, a local Indonesian built boat, ran very much like a super yacht for charters, but
Yeah, and then is there a lot of charter happening, private ownership? Have you got an idea of the split there?
I suppose so. I suppose I just covered the B2B side, but on the B2C side is the actual the new players the new owners that are coming in, the Asia-based owners. So there has been a gradual movement, and I'll give you an example. Ocean Marina in Pattaya in Thailand, they went from 10% to 15% Thai ownership of boats. They've got 400 berths, or 400 plus berths now. Now they've got over 50% Thai owners over the last 5 years. So you can see that there is a local buying power. They're getting more the local the local people are trying to look into the yachting sector, and not just
So the local people are boating more in that region. So it's less of second home territory, or have a boat over in Thailand, actually live elsewhere. It's locals. They are going boating. I suppose it's quite a good sign.
This is an awesome sign. One thing that I would say out of this is that what happened in the past, especially there was some business people, or people had investments, or they're doing things in Asia, then they would have a boat and things like this, because there was a traditionally leisure activity like yachting was something that's quite European, American. Now Asian owners are enjoying the boats, are getting out to explore things, but also, like you said just before, they're also seeing it as a slight investment as well. Get a boat, put it into charter. Now with things like charter license in Thailand, where it's getting clearer and clearer to operate a vessel so that you can use it for leisure, but also run it as a business.
You just brought me beautifully onto the next topic.
Segued.
Which is this, a nice segue. You've kind of hinted at already, it's quite fragmented and different in different parts of Asia. And what is happening from a regulatory perspective that either helps boating, or perhaps what's quite difficult to have a boating business or go boating in these regions?
Yeah, you nailed it just there with the countries themselves. And I'll give you an example for everyone, like Europe, for instance, you got France and Italy and Spain, and you can go around the Med and you can cruise.
Yeah.
If you're cruising Southeast Asia, you could go through 3 different countries and you have to check in and check out of the different countries.
Yeah.
There's payments, there's immigration policy, there's a different visa for this one and that one.
Yeah, and it's not quite as mature, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite a unique situation to be going country to country, especially if it's a large yacht.
Yep, and it changes, always changes.
The authorities must be like, okay, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And it's not quite ironed out and so on.
And I suppose, we've got the conference that happens every year, Southeast Asia Yachting Conference, and this has to be our goal going forward in the future, is to make things more streamlined. And I say that on multiple levels. I think as an industry, we also need to support that direction as well, because we don't make it as an industry, because especially in Southeast Asia, everyone's sort of looking after themselves, and there's no alignment on different countries.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to have this type of like alignment or overall association who has all of the answers, like what is the charter license in Thailand? Could that charter license be used in Vietnam?
Yeah.
Are they? And it was a great question at our last conference from the guys from Vietnam. It's just like, we just heard about this awesome charter license in Thailand, and over 10 years it's finally come through. We want the same thing. How did your government get to this point? And I think this is a really interesting thing for me, and I think that this is where, as an industry, we need to get to. We need to align and have one place, one platform. I'll give it APSA, Susie Raymond from Asia Pacific Superyacht Association. They do bring together quite a lot of this from the superyacht side, and I think just more regulatory side we could do more of. Speaking to Joe Lynch from Icomia as well, he's very supportive to try and get something to be more aligned with all the different countries, make it easier for everyone.
Yeah, I suppose that's when these kind of umbrella associations that have the knowledge from all these different nations come in really useful, because they can share it with the rest of the world, and those learnings can actually save a lot of time, be actually better for the industry long term, and so that's an important part of Icomia's value.
And also to tap onto that is that at the end of the day, when we structure everything more smoothly, the owning experience for the boat owners in Asia, especially they're new to boating or something like that, if they have a bad experience, and I can use an example, MEBA contracts not always used by brokers selling boats, and so when the lawyers are not involved and there's a big vessel and there hasn't been due diligence done because someone's got a good deal or something, whereas like once we start and we have these standard operating procedure, like all these companies realize, okay, let's do the MEBA contract, because it's world known. People see the benefits of having a lawyer. They're not trying to cut the corners, because at the end of the day, they're trying to sell the vessel. They want to have all this back pay.
Yeah. Let's move on to infrastructure. What's there? What do marinas look like in Southeast Asia? Is it kind of early investment opportunity type territory? Are there big established marinas? What are their facilities like? I'm trying not to ask you too many questions.
Look, it's pretty interesting if you take a step back. You've got your IYG, you've got all these marina groups around the world.
Okay, they're interested. They're there.
They're not there.
They're
That's
not there.
very interesting to me. I've had quite a lot of talks with global property groups like CBRE, and they're really interested to know what's going on, how does it work,
and that's from an investment opportunity.
Yes,
get in now, build it, grab the market share, and it's
and you see 115 Marina is probably one of the most well-known groups who are investing into the marinas. Most of the other marinas are just individual, so they own the property and they own they manage the facility as well.
Okay.
And that's been fantastic and great, but you won't see, for instance, in Australia, you've got a whole heap of public marinas, whereas almost all the marinas in Asia are private, and then most of them you'll need a membership to be, to get a berth even.
Okay, and largely independent owned. So you've got they're private, independently owned, and kind of, I suppose, from a bigger picture again, that creates this segmented, different experiences, different marina facilities, all very inconsistent. Varied,
Yes.
is that fair?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Marinas Industry Association Australia, they do a fantastic job bringing up the level of training in the marinas and bringing like them standards. But we just got to keep developing that, and the goal should be like these marinas, because there is marinas popping up all the time. There's a very nice marina being developed in Bali right now. It's getting a lot of attention, and we're going to see every year there's going to be announcements of a new development happening. Phuket's obviously a hot spot. Everyone's, pretty much every couple of years you're hearing of a shipyard being developed there, which is back on your point about infrastructure. This has been one of the silent movers, probably not too silent, but yards that can take, bigger yachts. So 10 years ago, you've only got certain countries like Singapore who could take out a 50-meter yacht or things like that. So, you're cruising through beautiful islands in Indonesia, and then you got to get back to Singapore to haul a boat up for, and obviously, I'm at Monaco every year talking to captains and engineers, and, they're planning their 2-year trip, and they're like, we're going to do a survey, so we're going to have to stop through Singapore. So obviously
they're their route.
They're planning the whole
have to
route.
integrate into it.
The first time I was chatting with the captain, and he wanted to know about. It is probably 10 years ago. He wanted to know about. I was like, he's like, yeah. So we'll be there, and it was like 2 years from then. I was like, why are you planning so much ahead? But then I started to realize, wow, it's because...
start going through the logistics and going, well, here's the expectations of the owner or the charter guest, anything like that.
If you're going to
go... Here's the crew logistics, here's the work that needs to be done.
Can we do the helicopter servicing as well? Okay, that can only be done in...
fairly specialist service,
So, I mean, that's a big... That became really interesting part for... that you don't see in the news. You can't read about that until you experience that and see that. And now you see, I mean, Singapore's constantly got 50 to 60 meters being hauled up there for 10-year surveys, and the boat's just cruising through, stops in Singapore for a bit, and then heads off. But now you've got Thailand. We've got 3 really good shipyards, new shipyards on the Phuket side, and they're busy. Constantly got boats coming in, and they're also the people, they're also getting a lot of attention from captains and yacht managers here in Europe. So.
And so there's a lot of positive stuff going on. Well, I want a really realistic view as well. So what are the more difficult things that any boats going to that regional organisation is trying to be players? What are their biggest challenges? What are the things that are actually quite difficult choke points that they'll need to work on?
I think probably what we talked about is as far as the disjointedness, and I think it's that experience. If they had that bad experience, or they're getting some dubious information from someone, they don't feel confident in the region. That starts to play. That's probably one of the harder things that we...
So it's kind of trust.
And
if you have a bad experience, actually, it might be a completely different story from another player in that same area, or just kind of ask around and be resourceful.
And
find the right people.
I think this comes with scalability as well. So a lot of, people are not dealing with things all the time. In Asia, you might have to do this job, but you might not do that same job with a boat or anything for another year or so. So your knowledge, straight up knowledge, is not that consistent, because you're not doing it if you're doing something all the time. So I find that a lot, and I'll bring it back to this. Having an alignment of an association and not being disjointed would be huge benefit for this. Not just it'll take some time, but in 5 years' time, if we would look back 5 years ago and people were talking about this, wow, we would have a much stronger industry and a much more confident industry when in Southeast Asia. So we need to get on these things now for actually in 3 years' time, not just for what we can talk about now with, clearing in and out of customs and stuff like that, but, as an industry, and we've got backing. Well, we've got support from all around the world. People have been doing this. Let's say, for instance, Caribbean. How they do all the check-in and check-out. It's picking up these things that have already been done. Let's not reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah.
And let's try to implement them, put them in. I think we struggle because to do that it takes time, resources, money that you don't see.
Then the people involved have to have this long-term vision. It's rare, and
who's going to fund that?
It's got to be. Ultimately, it comes down to people with vested interest who are going to be able to have sufficient resources to still be there in 5 years and invest and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And that's why I always see the companies who are investing in, I give you Damen, for instance, is a really good investor into the Southeast Asia region with the boat shows and things. They haven't got a boat there, they haven't got anything to show, but having Damen Yachting there, them understanding, the nuances of Southeast Asia, that's their vision, is they want to support this development. And when there's companies like this, MTU has been a big one in the past. So the more we get these global companies to help fund things like boat shows, things like conferences, even though they might not get direct clients from it, but they're building it for a healthier future.
I was going to say, so what is their vision? Are they kind of thinking, well, if more people are interested in yachting, super yachting, or even just boating, they're thinking, okay, more people involved in the activity, a healthier market, ultimately, we'll be building some boats for that market. So let's encourage it. Let's help it happen. Is that very basically why they're doing it?
I think any company who's got that vision that they're wanting to expand, no doubt Asia is that spot. If you got to see in 5 years' time, you're probably going to have the same amount of people buying boats in Europe and America, but and things like even Australia, but in Asia is still that, wow, it could be, and I think, of course, that's a big one. But generally, I think when the companies are not trying, I don't think Damen Yachting's there trying to say, come and buy our boats. They're just there going like, we're investing into this region. We want these things to be successful because that grows up our whole industry, and I think that's very admirable.
Yeah, nice vision. And so we talked a lot about Southeast Asia. Hopefully people are learning a lot. I am. There are one or two key events that are quite good resources, points to kind of attend and get involved in to learn more. You're involved in the Southeast Asia Conference. There's a Singapore Yachting Festival. What are these about? What can people expect from these events?
Yeah, so we've got a cool little calendar of events. So Thailand has a boat show, multiple boat shows in January. I think they'll have one boat show next year. Great event, it's obviously it's a tourist island. So then you've got a boat show in Langkawi as well coming up it's in April as well. So it's a small boat show. And then Singapore Yachting Festival, is always sort of going to be that central place, or the bigger boat show.
Because the strength of Singapore geographically, the facilities there, that kind of...
Yeah. And geographically, so you'll get all of you'll get the dealers from, and a lot of the big yards, so the Azimets and Beneteau, they'll actually hold their Asia conference, or Southeast Asia conference. So they'll get there in Vietnam.
Awesome. So you get all these sub events around the big event.
It is. I mean, the boat show is obviously Singapore's brutally hot, so we start the show later in the evening, and then there's naturally a lot of events and social activities. But in the mornings, you'll see a lot of meetings happening where there's big announcements happening as well for the region. So there'll be new dealers coming on board, and the dealers in Southeast Asia get to meet up and discuss. And I think that's where Singapore will always sort of have that centralized space because let's say you're not selling as much you might sell a couple of boats into Indonesia a year, maybe a couple more into Thailand, maybe a couple in Vietnam, but then having one location, Singapore, centralize that. So Singapore is definitely going to continue to be that point for this. And then with the conference, it's the third year the conference, Southeast Asia Yachting Conference, happening, and its progression has been something that's didn't start off with the big vision.
Okay.
It's now got a very hardline focused on aligning the different groups, different countries, and trying to be a platform that groups like Icomia can come there. They can showcase like what's Icomia, what's the benefits of being part of a bigger association, and hopefully there's also an Asia working group part of Icomia, and I think they're doing a fantastic job to try to start that, make it the conversation more. So yeah, the conference I think is always going to be a tough one. We don't have the manufacturing that's back. So all of like the equipment providers and all of the pedestal makers and things like this, it's all coming from Europe. And so you would think that these conferences would be a bit bigger and stronger, but they sometimes it's hard because you've got a lot of opportunity and progress, but things are not quickly moving. So people come and it's great for networking and meeting up. It's just for it to really progress. We need more involvement from like a global source.
Yeah. And so why are people there? What do people learn? What kind of things do they pick up and go back to base saying, we learned this was valuable, this is why we went?
Yeah. Look, obviously the networking with the local, in the Southeast Asia community, because I mean we have all the boat shows in Europe and everything, which is fantastic, but I mean you get lost because it's so big. Whereas, a media personality told me one day, they're at staying at the W Hotel, and then there's a CEO of a shipyard just having breakfast by themselves.
Yeah.
And this is a big shipyard, one of the big superyards. There's no chance you would ever get this anywhere else around the world. And they just can go up and say hi, sit there, have it. So I think that is the really interesting part where you have C-suite executives from bigger corporations. They're coming there.
They've got their eyes open as well for these local partners and thinking, okay, well, we need some knowledge in the region, we need some local expertise.
Whereas
their eyes open, going, okay, well, you could be that partner. Okay, you can find that, and that's
and I think
this is the way.
I know that a lot of a few Aussie companies, they will specifically come up because they know that there'll be some European CEOs and marketing directors, sales directors. So they'll take that opportunity to come to Singapore to try and get closer to them, because if they came to Europe to a boat show, there's no chance you would ever get to sit with anybody who's at an executive level, because they're all too busy. And I suppose that's a cool thing, that we're not too busy at a show or a conference, but we still attract the right audience to come. So that's it.
Okay, and I have a closing question for you.
Okay.
Are you ready? So if you're speaking to, let's say, a board of directors who are looking at the Southeast Asia market, what do we do? How do we get in there? What's your your headline recommendation? Try this.
Number one thing I've seen is that understanding a dealer network in Southeast Asia is trickier than it probably looks.
An art form, is it?
Yeah, so it's understanding not just like language is a barrier, but also like culturally. I think people probably don't take advantage of the Singapore show as much as they could, especially if they're coming into, and I mean that as in the preparation for it. They rarely probably get the meetings planned beforehand, and that's something I spoke to someone yesterday who was like, oh wait, it was great last year and we want to sponsor again, but I was too busy with this and I didn't actually get to meet this person, and I didn't and I was like, well, how about you plan to meet, like do you want and that's something on our side as well that we could work on, is like a matchmaking, because it's just not easy to find, or like the Vietnam dealer or the Malaysian dealer or potential dealer. And I think
I bet it's quite painful from your perspective, because you're thinking they were in the same room, they were there, you should have talked to them, and that would have been great. But be organised, and you can make it happen. If you're not organised, you kind of...
Yeah, and I think...
it's going to be a random result.
I think it's the time. People have got to give a bit more time and towards and understand. Obviously, it's the cultural. There's a culture difference as well, but traditionally, I mean, you look at another sector or industry. So, for instance, cars. So, there has been traditionally a Ferrari dealer becomes the Ferretti dealer. You know, this type of thing. So, I suppose this has been one way that has been successful for companies to come into. And I think what we're going to see more of now, waterfront properties becoming more. So you've got private islands in Indonesia and like island resorts. These are all starting to pick up, you know, boats and have marinas in there. So I think if I was to say like a silver bullet to come to look into Asia, I think that's the main thing. Understand that dealer network, and if that means researching outside of our industry and looking at how, you know, another industry, cars, luxury property, things like this, then that's valid.
That works.
Yeah, I think that's the one to follow.
Wade, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Mate,
I've learned a lot.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it.
I'm sure they did. So everybody, if you enjoy content like this and it's helpful to your business, make sure you're following here to see plenty more of it. All being well, we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.